Why don't we get going? We only have about 15 minutes or so because I actually have a day job and a 1 o'clock meeting, so off we go. Thank you all for coming. Many of you have seen this, or most of this presentation before, so I apologize for that, only a little bit. But why don't we dive right in so we can get through it, bring everyone up to speed. Why are we looking at a new fire station? And I think most folks know, but this is probably my favorite picture out of all of them, and we have quite a few in here. Building's a little tight, a little dangerous for the size vehicles that we have today. So we are looking at a new station really for physical and occupational safety concerns for our personnel. The facilities do not allow them to actually maintain the vehicles in the building. That's why you see the vehicles out front a lot while they're doing their checks and restocking the ambulance or cleaning it. That also all be done outside. We also don't have access control in the building, as you see in the police station, for instance. And the building is currently non-compliant with current OSHA standards and regulations, like pretty much all of them. So it was a station that has served us very well for 50 years. And very well for something that it wasn't intended to do for us. But it is definitely time for us to look at other things and move on. So I'm excited to move forward here. This is just, I think, an interesting graph to take a look at there. Modern engines have gotten bigger, and everything continues to get bigger. The ambulances seem to grow 3 feet every generation or so. The old white ambulance that we got rid of was 6 feet shorter than the newest one we had right now. And the older ambulance is 3 feet shorter than the new one, which means when we get a new one, we have 3 more feet. We do not actually have 3 more feet in the building because the prior picture that you saw, that's the back of the ambulance, and that allows you just to walk in front of the ambulance to be able to access the gear on the far side of the station. We also have supply management challenges. We have supplies spread across 4 different buildings. There's trailers in 3 different locations. And right now, since it's winter time, we even have one of our fire trucks down in the garage on Center Street, taken offline because we do not have space for it in the heated area.
I'm looking for the station. Sitting there for half hours.
Okay, where are we at now? So since town meeting, we actually have complete construction documents. There's a couple of copies right here. You can see they're very thick, very heavy. We have bid specs done, and in fact, the station is out to bid right now. We did a pre-qualification of contractors and subcontractors. Good news there is that there was a lot of interest. In fact, much more interest than what they've seen typically. So we are cautiously optimistic that that's a good thing. We will find out. We did do perk testing for a new complex-wide septic field location. So the existing septic field is down the hill past the town barn. Can't really tell because it's a little bit overgrown in there, but we would look to put a new septic field for the complex itself out there. And as we found out, the new septic field actually was done about 30 years ago and was done as an emergency repair, so it wasn't as up to code as it could have been then. It certainly won't handle the additional flow that would come from the new building. We've also been working separately on the public water supply. We have 3 new wells drilled. They're working on testing and system design currently, and we'll talk more about that later in the presentation. If folks have questions, just interrupt me. Unless I'll talk the whole time. So, what does the new design accomplish? First of all, it allows for appropriate apparatus bay and space for our vehicle fleet to maintain and to store. You'll see here, that's the new apparatus bay. And then we also added at the back of the building, it's just a covered roof area where trailers and things can be put, rather than putting that within the building itself. We didn't need to spend money on having a fully closed area. So this is just really a shed roof that comes off the back. For that storage, keep the sun off. Today, if you go in the station, you'll notice along the far wall by the library, there's gear. There's also the gear, if you walk out of the office and round back to the kitchen and break room area, there's gear all stored right there. That's not what you're supposed to do, you're not supposed to have it out where you're brushing by it. So this is set up with appropriate gear storage and also locations to be able to do the beer bottles and the whole thing like that, all back in this corner here, keeps it well away from anywhere that the public would be, meeting current codes and requirements. We also now have an actual area where when you come back from particularly a fire, you can go right in, or the staff can go right in here, they can leave off their gear to be cleaned, and also take showers before entering any of the private or public space of the fire station. Today we just don't even have that feasibility or functionality within the station. So this is again a big improvement in order to be able to get us to where we need to be for our fire department staff. And now we have a new admin space up here. It's an open area with the chief's office and a small conference room. You're supposed to be able to be flexible, be able to allow folks to be able to allow the staff to be able to deal with what we're doing on a daily basis. Have plans, you can use the conference room, and really trying to be judicious in the amount of space we have there. And then down in the back of the station we have food area, so kitchen and the break room, and then beds and showers and things like that in order to make sure that they, for the overnight staff, that they're able to have appropriate accommodations. And then finally, the station also has dual purpose space. So we have a new training room, larger than the police station because the fire department is a much larger group of staff. Also, a larger room allows for greater use over town, and it is in the public area of the building. So we can do it for meetings like this. Although we have a meeting building in the fire station. The fire station, but you get the idea. And also to be able to do training classes, and I think we also envisioned that there would be some ability to utilize this as a warming and cooling center where you actually have EMS staff on site for those types of events. Up at the top, you'll see there's that's the vestibule you come in, there's particularly a medical room is the ad that we have here, so this would be available to do various public health type of things. So, sort of an overall comprehensive design. At this point, I think pretty much everyone knows where the station is going, but this is just a conceptual view here. I'll show you in the next slide, actually, the specifics of this. It just gives you an idea of how we fit the station in, along with the ball fields, and eventually sort of reimagined parking area for the public side of the complex. So here are the actual drawings for the fire station itself. This is the police station down here. Ball fields right in the corner of the big ball field right up there. And the station is nestled in there with the department having their own sort of area for the vehicles. They will not be trying to dance around other cars and things like that. And then parking around the back. This parking actually would be grass with a coating over it in order to allow vehicles to park on it. Wouldn't be needed except for a big fire where we have, or a training day where we have a lot of this small staff coming in. And then again, here's the area in the back for all the equipment that we might put back there. Any questions? There's mud. As we talked about, public medical room, training room, additional accommodation in the space that we're going to utilize for the station. And then potential reuse of the existing fire station as a community center. Could be repurposed relatively shortly after occupancy changes to the new building. And then we can look at some rather minimal changes to the building over time to improve it It also ends up being a really good spot for that, being between the townhouse and the library and the ball fields there. Great opportunity to really improve the whole complex and provide additional activities for folks in town. This question comes up quite a bit about why we are not renovating the existing station. First of all, we did do a study of this. This was done by Reinhardt Associates study, looked at that, looked at the possibility of adding on to the building during the renovation. The first issue that really comes up is the fact that we need a temporary station while we're building. And that is a very expensive proposition. It's $2 to $3 million just to put up the temporary station and occupy it during the time that we would be working on the building.
And
So
that's $2 to $3 million of rented station.
correct.
It's not a building that we would use permanently somewhere else.
Right, and we have to find some place to put it. That's a whole other issue. We really don't have a cleared space to do that with utilities, so there could be additional costs there. Typically, when a town does something like this, it's for a very, a sort of antique station that they really want to be able to keep on. But in this sort of instance, it's a lot of money up front before you even start working on the existing building. The other issue is that the building was built 50 years ago. It likely will have to come up to code, given that we were replacing such a vast amount of the building. The whole apparatus bay would have to come down. We want to be able to make it the right size for door sizes as well as depth for vehicles. So you're going to end up taking down so much of the building and come to code for today's codes, at which point we're likely knocking down most, if not all, of the building and then putting up the building. And if you remember the last picture of how the size difference between that station and this one, it would impact the ball fields. And the ball fields would, at least one of the ball fields would have to go. So it's not really so much a choice of whether we can make some tweaks to the existing station. There really are ways to do that in order to come to compliance. It's about whether you want to put the station there or there. And it will likely be significantly more expensive to the tune of probably $3 to $4 million by the time we're done, on top of the existing cost that we're projecting for this building. So what's next? We should receive the bids by mid-April. They will, of course, be contingent upon funding of this. This is not a done deal in any way, shape, or form. We have two things that will have to happen. There will have to be approval at the 2025 annual town meeting. And then there will also have to be approval for a question on the ballot to allow for a debt exclusion. Both of those things have to happen in order for us to be able to move forward with the project.
It's a 2/3 vote to an annual town meeting.
At the annual town meeting, yeah. And so we're also planning to do some additional public outreach meetings. We have one scheduled for daytime meeting on Saturday the 5th, 10:30, I assume probably right here. And then we will do 2 additional weeknight meetings during the month of April in order to allow for those who cannot make it on Saturday. And then, of course, if there are any other questions that come up in the meantime, if folks can't make other meetings, people should feel free to reach out and ask any questions you have myself or other of us on the town projects. And then should we get the approvals at both town meeting and the town election, construction will begin in the summer of 2025. Probably later summer. And it'll take probably about 18 months to 2 years for us. The other thing that we're working on is the new water supply for the town complex. The existing water supply is split up with a well down at the town barn, a well underneath in the basement here at the townhouse that supplies the police station, the fire station, this building, and a well at and we have drilled 3 new wells out behind the town barn. One of them We have one that's a decent one and one that's not so great. But we did 3 in order to, one, have a well there. If we needed a spare, we're only planning to use 2. And also to make sure that we had adequate flow from these 2 of the wells. Where we're at right now is they've done water testing on one of the wells. They're waiting to do their process of doing water testing on the second well. All of that will be submitted to DEP, certain copy of Board of Health with that information, and that will dictate the type of water treatment system that needs to be put in the basin here. And that design of that water treatment, as well as the locations of how to run all the water lines, is ongoing, and we expect to be able to go out to bid for that later this spring, very early summer, and then have the work done during the summer. And we have to be done by the end of 2025, so that's our goal. We are using ARPA funds for this project, so hopefully everything comes in where we need it to be. But there will be a lot of digging around to be able to get water lines off the hill to this building, and then the police station's all set, but then we'll have to get over to the fire station and to the library as well. And for and we'll see what we do with the existing wells. They could be repurposed as long as they're separate from the public water supply and purposed for irrigation or other uses that wouldn't be part of public water. Public water is going to be kept in its own box there. Any questions with that? That's all I have. So, what else can I tell folks?
John, the entrance and exit and the traffic flow, particularly emergency vehicles.
There's 2 other things that are in the bid for the fire station. One is a re-engineering of the entrance and exits here to straighten that out, to bring the wall down that's causing some blockage of view. So that is part of the project. And the other thing is the new septic field. That's part of the bid for the station as well. So cost will include that.
So no changes on the actual entrance to 58 and exit onto 58?
Not as part of this project. That would be a lot of fun to do that project, but that is something completely separate and high on the want list, but not as high critically as a need. Certainly it's not great to have all the entrances and exits, and it is a little bit dangerous, but it's more so that we have to sort of focus one thing at a time.
John, you talked about reusing the existing station as a community center, where I assume all of that funding would not be included as part of this
That is
project.
not part of this project.
And if you mentioned kind of talk to code and all this, would that still be a
You're not-
need to reuse it as a community center?
I mean, we have to look into it more, but you can use the building right now. So you would have to just make sure we're correct with as far as the usage of that building with occupancy along with the fire station and septic and the whole thing. We have to figure all of that out. But you use the building right now. Like we do it for pancake breakfast, right? I mean, we use the space. Is it as perfect as we would want it? No, you use some paint and things like that. But I envision if we were to make some modifications to the building, they would be relatively minor. Things like taking out the garage doors and putting windows in instead. That is not going to be a level of modification to the building that's going to require, as far as I understand, across.
Yeah, so the way that the renovation codes work is generally if you're touching 50% or more of the building, and by touching I mean moving walls, structural things, adding things to it. If we were to completely finish out that apparatus bay in terms of offices, that may trigger that. But if we're just talking about, sprucing things up and tweaking some things in the kitchen and front office, that's not going to trigger the code that says we have to bring everything up to par.
And our vision is not to take away that great space that's the apparatus. Like that's part of the benefit of the building, if you're going to use it from a community perspective, is to have a big space. So
Also, although we have it labeled as a community center, some of us, of course, hope that there's a bit of a focus on the senior side of the community. And there are, at this point, many grants available for rehab and building out or senior centers.
Multi-purpose building.
Yeah.
Just a quick question on something you highlighted, John, and maybe the chief or anything could answer this better, but I can imagine why, but what is driving the increase in size in the vehicles, and are we thinking about that in this design? I mean, obviously at some point it's not like they're going to keep growing, but I'm just curious.
I think in terms of technology that has changed, so the cabs have to be able to sustain the weight of the vehicle if it rolls over. And just chassis have gotten bigger, I think, and bigger cabs, you know, so you can no longer ride on the tailboard. So where you used to be able to depend on having the tailboard for two, I know, it seems silly, right?
That was the fun, I know.
I never had a problem on the tailboard.
A lot of fun. Yeah, but look what happened to you.
I know.
He only fell off twice.
I know.
I didn't fall
He's
off.
fine.
Yeah,
Jim Parker held me on.
so expanding
Well, I put my coat
the amount
on.
of room that you need. Plus, we have to carry more equipment, right? You know, it's no longer just the jaws of life that are super simple. You know, you have to depend on hazmat. And now they're talking clean cab space, so they're trying to remove the SCBA's from the cabs. You know, where we put the air packs on while we're sitting in the seat. Now they're trying to get all of that equipment out of the cabs, so now you need more storage. And plus, our trucks need to carry more water than the standard fire truck. So most departments, when you go to, they're carrying 500 to 750 gallons of water. Our engine to the main truck that goes on has 1,500 gallons of water. So we have to bring more water to the scene where we don't have hydrants. So all of that.
Why are we required to do that?
Just because, where we don't have hydrants, so we want to have more
Got
water
it.
when we show up to
Yep.
the scene.
That makes sense.
And I mean, if you look at the diagram there too, I mean, you will see that these are generally spec'd out as the vehicles that we currently have. It's going to take a while for us to get to our current situation. There's a fair amount of space, both width-wise as well as height-wise.
How big is each one of those spaces to fit a truck into it?
I think when I measured the other day, based on the plans, and I'm not looking at that map, but it was about 80 feet of garage space.
Can we expect in 10 years the trucks and stuff will be even bigger than proposed now? And therefore, can we accommodate the trucks, the future trucks in 10 years?
Yeah, it certainly would seem, you know, so each of our engines now is 35 to 40 feet, and the bays are 80. I would say that, you know, even with some rearranging and things like that. And I would think that as we move in more of a green direction nationally, that trucks may not continue to grow because, you know, I wouldn't expect the diesel engines to keep getting bigger as we continue. And that's, I think, also part of it, the engines have gotten larger in size.
The bays are about 50 feet deep on each one, so you've got about 100 feet top to bottom, and then the trucks they're showing there are 32 feet, so.
Chief, would it be fair to say that there's probably an upper limit where things will reach, that we're not going to be like tractor trailer fire trucks?
Yes, I would hope so. You see them every once in a while, but I don't see a need for something like a ladder truck in this community anytime in the near future. So we wouldn't be going for a truck that's that length. Right now, the tanker is the longest truck. When it comes time to replace that truck in probably another 20 years, we would probably try to keep the cab the same length and not need any tractor truck or anything like that.
Part of the consideration with equipment in this town is the streets we're dealing with. So, you know, you get something too big, you can't get it around, so you're kind of limited to the length of a vehicle because of that.
And the retreat lot driving.
Right.
Yeah.
Tell me about traffic. Is the traffic light going to be in the future? With so many vehicles coming and going from
Yeah.
spot to spot.
It's not part of this project, but we have talked about it, and it's something that I think we would like to pursue. Part of the reason it's not part of this project is that's its own project in and of itself, because it's Mass Highway. That has to, we can go through all of their approval process to get that in, but yeah, I think the ideal would be at this entrance and exit is to be able to have a flashing light that would be triggered by the emergency vehicles leaving, that would turn to red and be able to stop the traffic. Absolutely, but that's its own event to go through. Anything else? Well, we got done this.
So we need to get some meetings for nighttime so we can make sure that the residents have the opportunity. So we'll schedule those. Don't know what else we can tell.
Well,
I can touch a little bit on the OSHA regulations that, so when Massachusetts first became an OSHA state, the fire departments were kind of not quite part of that original adoption of OSHA standards. Last year it was announced that there are 21 NFPA requirements. NFPA is the governing body basically that sets the safety standards for fire departments. 21 of those regulations are going to become law. We don't have the exact date. It says sometime in 2025, and that's where a lot of the safety considerations for the station come in, like the separate gear storage. So the separate gear storage is not only for contaminations that we may bring back to the station, but it's also to keep the gear from getting contaminated by the diesel fuel every time the engines start, whether or not we do have the ventilation system in the roof. And the design of this station has the ones that directly connect right to the exhaust, but then when the trucks come back in, the diesel particles are one of the biggest contaminants that are leading to the increases in firefighter cancer rates. So that's another big push to get the gear out of the garage. And that's one of the many one of the 21 standards that's going to become law. I do have a list of those if anyone needs it. Again, we don't have the exact date for that, but it's sometime in 2025. That it's suspected to be fully adopted by the state of Massachusetts. And that's just one of the examples.
Chief, is there an expectation that stations that do not comply with those will be forced to make compliance changes?
I haven't seen any literature that says one way or the other. I know that the opinion period or the public comment period ended last May. So we haven't received anything directly, but I would think that at some point they would set a deadline that says within this amount of time you have to have made X, Y, and Z progress with compliance.
We'll say that we've spent, since 2002 we started this, 46 meetings. It doesn't include going to about 5 or so fire stations to see how they were built. We understand that. So there's been a lot of thought put into this. I think it just arrived within the last 6 months.
And as far as fit and finish of the station, you're going to find it to be very similar to the police station. There's nothing extravagant, nothing extra. I think the chief's requirement is that I could hose the station down. That would be great. This is a station for Plympton. It's designed to meet what we need. It's a lot bigger than what we've had, but we have a bigger mandate than we did when we built this as a call station without EMS. So, we're trying to be thoughtful too, is what we're doing on the outside from a maintenance perspective. But this is no Taj Mahal.
What avenues are being used to get the word out to the town? So that people, this is a pretty small percentage of the town here. I know you've been to the library talking about it, okay? What other avenues exist so that you can get the word out? So people don't just hear a slanted view of what's going on, but maybe just the total story, the facts.
I am not going to go on Facebook to argue this point, but I think we will clearly put up on Facebook meeting dates where people can come and do that. I do not think Facebook is the place that we should be having back and forth chats to this. People have been provided with the opportunity to attend meetings. We've been to town meeting. This will be the third time to town meeting about this specific project. We've taken our time in doing it in order to make sure that we do it with a thoughtful approach. And so we'll set those dates up. We'll make sure they're promoted. And then, we would also like to send out, along with the town warrant, a fact sheet that explains what's being done. Not any opinions on it, but just factually what is being done. And that way, that will get to every resident.
One of the things we did, if you're familiar with the 40B that's been talked about, if you go onto the Plympton Town page, on the left-hand corner, it says the first category is Ruggles 40B. Everything we have received, we put in there, so that nobody can come in and say, gee, I didn't get this information. I think we should do the same with the fire station and put it right below that. So people can click on, see all the information that we've gathered, and then it's up to them. At some point, we're really trying to lead them to understand, because we think we've got a good story.
You go to the town properties committee, minutes. They're very detailed minutes that are included there. We've been trying to include, we can't. It's a little hard to put this up online, but we certainly try to put off whatever we can along with the minutes that we're discussing, so that people can have a view on that. And then, obviously, town properties meets at least monthly, not more frequently, and the public is welcome to come to a meeting just to have a discussion. And we've had a few folks who have, but not many.
I think even having these slides readily available, I think, I would have thought.
Yeah, and we most of them are already available because we put them up after the talk we gave last year ahead of town meeting. So most of these are the same. We've updated them clearly because they have a little bit different information. We're at a different point. But we are where we said we would be last year at town meeting after a year. And the benefit of coming out with a bid is that we will have a number that we can build the stations for, not a guess. And we've had some towns that have ran into some trouble with that, neighboring towns and projects that we're doing. The bids came in 30, 40, 50% higher than the estimates. And now they're in trouble because they have the money to build a smaller amount and not so that's a challenge. This will be what it costs. The other thing I would point to on that is we're seeing about an 8% increase year over year based on the estimates. That doesn't mean the bidding won't be different. So if the town decides it's going to do it this year and wait a year to do it another year, I think the safest thing I can tell you is it will cost more. Will it be 8%? I don't know. But it will cost more the next year and more the year after that. And it doesn't and it doesn't seem to be going to 2%. So that's our challenge, right? Jason, if we had done this and not that we were ready or in a place to do it back when we did the police stations, we probably would be more of a $6 to $7 million spend rather than 12 to 14. And that's something to do with COVID, that escalation. Things came back down a little bit, but not. They never come back down a little bit.
One more question, with the enormous amount of real estate in paved area, tell me about water flow. Where's all the water going? Yeah, that's off the road, so.
Our engineer has been working on that. So that was one of the things that they did with this, is having this be pervious surface for the actual parking and not going and paving that. And then, of course, it's all going to, some of the water, our plan is to have a cistern that will capture water off the roof for use for the trucks. So that we're not, because right now, we don't have a water source other than what we can beg and borrow. I guess we get gifted if we're not going to borrow anything back.
Bonnie's Pond always worked.
Yes, and you got a few little extra things with it too. So, but it will. Then they have to make some tweaks to the retention basins that we already have out here. But my understanding is the plan is to utilize infrastructure that we have in order to
John? If I could just say something, I think it's important that everybody here takes a little responsibility and talks to their friends and neighbors about this. This is a big deal for the town. Get the facts straight so that we're not floating rumors around there, that we don't know what we're doing, that we're, just going on by ourselves as a committee. That's not true. We're there. When we have our meetings, you're more than welcome to come. Ask your questions. Ask any of us that are on the committee any questions you want. But I think it's important for everybody to take a little responsibility and talk to whoever you can to encourage them. The fire department really needs this. It's not just, accommodations for them. You've got to look at, there's a possibility of liability to the town if something should happen and we don't have in place what we need to have in place. So it's important that people really think about this and not just blow it off and think that we're just out there trying to spend money. As a committee, we're doing our best to keep the costs where they should be and where they need to be. And as John said, nothing's going to go down. It's always going to go up. We're in an excellent position right now because there's not an awful lot of work out there. John mentioned the filed sub-bids. We had like 113 filed sub-bidders apply. And there was I think there was 14 primary general contractors. So that's a real good advantage for us at this time in the process, that we'll be having, bids out there and a lot of people will be looking at it. So just try and step up and help us out here. We'd appreciate it.
I think they said it's typically, 3 to 4 that they've been seeing for general contractors, and probably a quarter of the amount of filed sub-bids.
It's unusual to have that many, it really is. And that's a reflection of the fact that there's not a lot of work out there. So that's going to be just to our advantage. Next year, it might be completely different, so.
I think for me, the salient point the chief made was that at some point this year, we're going to be held accountable for the OSHA rules in the station, not just us, everybody. And there will probably be some sort of concurrency period that says, okay, you have 3 years, 5 years, whatever it is to fix it. But in that time, 100 other fire departments are going to be trying to do this, and the cost is going to go up because of all that work that we're going to be fighting over. So I think we have an opportunity to do it now and get ahead of it, check it off our list at a price it's going to be, in 3 years, this could be 25% higher if it's 8% a year.
And the other thing is, as far as providing information for the residents to make their decision. Again, this is not our decision what to do. This is all of us as residents, and we each get a vote. When we get the bids in and we come up with the cost, we will work with Liz and the finance team to make that mean something, right? How much does that mean to the average house per 100,000 valuation? So you can understand what this cost is to you. And, we all pay taxes in the town too, and we would like it to cost half as much as it's probably going to, but that's not the way it is. So our hope is that we will get some good competitive bidding, which will give us a little bit of breathing room, and then that we can figure out what our costs are so that we can provide all that information and let people make their decisions, both at town meeting and for the debt exclusion question.
Just quick question on the OSHA regulations. Is there, and I'm sure there is, a cost of compliance with OSHA that we would face if we didn't do this? In other words, one that can, as you guys detailed, renting a temporary station if we were going to do renovations, right? What's the trade-off with trying to use the existing station and comply with OSHA versus moving forward?
I mean, I think our biggest issue is if you look at all the different areas that we've added to the station in order to make it a fully functioning modern station is we would need space. Like, there's no place else to put the gear.
Right.
Like, the gear is where the gear is, and it's along both of the walls. And now you need space for gear.
I guess if we think about it from a taxpayer perspective, though, and we say it's 2 to 3 million to rent a temporary station. Mind you, if we're gonna leave this, we have to spend that money anyway, just to comply with OSHA, which is
Well, I mean,
effectively
that's kind
good
of-
money after bad.
This is kind of what we're doing.
Right,
This is
right.
like, what we're offering up is a fully compliant station
Right.
that has the appropriate space and infrastructure for even washing machines, that has the ability to get your gear off, be able to shower,
Mhm.
you know, instead of taking your gear off, cleaning what you can in the small washer, and then going home. Right? I mean, that's what you're doing today. You're getting in your car with all the stuff from the fire, and you're driving home. You're not supposed to do that. This will have that. So what do we need to comply? We're gonna need proper gear storage. So now there's space for that. What else do we need? We need proper place for you to be able to shower and get clean after a fire. We need space for that. You know, maybe you could say we don't need some of the other bits of space, but there's really nothing extravagant in what's designed. It's designed to be the next building for the next 50 years. And as we start even looking at adding any space to that building, you're going to start encroaching, not long, you're going to start encroaching onto the field behind.
I think for me, the simple way to think about it is the OSHA rules are going to trigger us to either renovate this station or build a new one.
Right.
And we've gone through the studies, we've gone through the exercises. The new one is likely the most cost-effective way. Could we bring in a scaled-down fire station to renovate the other one? Maybe, but it's not going to meet the programmatic need of what we have, and we're going to have to do something in 15 or 20 years again with a station that's not in an ideal location. So,
And I would think to redo the existing station is going to cost you almost as much as it's going to, because
Right.
the foundation's going to have to be replaced, the roof, basically that building's going to come down.
if we give
Just to
plans-
accommodate, stuff that you need to have.
Right.
If we
So-
give plans to a contractor to say renovate this station and build me this thing, the first thing the contractor is going to do is knock down that entire station, because the most expensive thing in construction is the unknown. What's behind a wall? What's underground? The contractor's going to go, I don't want that liability. I want to start fresh. I want to make as much money as I can.
I think
So what percentage bigger is this new fire station than the old ones? 100% bigger, or 200% bigger, or how does that compare?
The current station is 3,200 square feet.
14. So a lot bigger.
But a lot of that's the apparatus.
But I mean, even look at that.
Just the additional bay, that's adding a lot, and the length of the bays is adding a lot to the footprint.
I mean, you'll have 14-foot wide doors on the new station, which means a person could be on either side of the apparatus as it leaves. Not that that's the thing to do, but, I mean, there's not much room. So, I mean, each place where we're adding the space is giving you that ability to have safe space around the vehicles. And, we talked about some of these OSHA regulations about where you store your gear and things like that. My biggest concern right now is the issues of you come in from a fire or a bad car accident late at night, and someone gets pinned between two of the vehicles. And we have multiple places where you can get pinned either against the wall or between the vehicles, because you go into a modern fire station, the vehicles are not anywhere near one. There is plenty of space in between them, because you don't want to create these safety hazards. Plus, they don't have cool holes in the wall, to fit the ladder. Custom, they're not as bespoke as this one. So, I mean, that's just and that's the type of thing that would be, it'd be catastrophic, not only for a firefighter that is involved in it, but that's going to get attention and going to be an issue. Now, one of the benefits that we have already today, even if we don't vote to go ahead with this, we have now plans. We have ready plans to build. And so if we decided we had to wait a year or two to do this, we can still use these plans. And even if we went out further, which I'm not sure we can, but even if we did, we have something to work off of to just adapt. So this is not money that goes down the thing. It's a good investment.
John, well, number one, I sat on the Town Properties Committee or whatever the previous iterations are, almost for a decade. And just a reminder to everyone that I think over the years, that committee has gone over and over and over every possibility and squeezed every way to save money possible. I mean, the bottom line is, we have to do this sooner or later. Which brings me to more important point, and maybe stating the obvious, but I think one of the key things is the minute we have the bids, we need to work on coming up with a number that taxpayers can understand what it's going to cost them. I mean, this is going to be a wicked sticker shock, and I'm not sure any of us really realize what sticker shock it's going to be, but I think the sooner we get that number out there and can juxtapose that number with how hard we've worked to make this as affordable as possible is really important.
One more question, so I'm trying to ask so many questions. With the cost of steel going up, the cost of aluminum going up, with all the future expenses we know around the corner, these contracts that would be signed, if in fact the town does go through with it, would they be locked in so that the contract is stuck with additional costs? Or is there a clause in there so that we have to pick up additional costs as time goes on?
We've asked that question, and our OPM has said that the cost of the bid will be bid. Now, a lot of the station is conventional framed. So yes, there's steel in it, but this isn't a huge steel building. So yes, there could be some impact with cost, but my assumption is that the contractors will think about that as they're bidding, but it's also a small piece of the project. He did not seem concerned, and we asked him, he did not seem concerned about tariffs, but we will find out in mid-April. Bids are higher than what we anticipated or hoped, and apparently the contractors will think it's a much bigger concern. The estimator that we use tends to be a little bit conservative from what we've been told, and they just, what did he say? They just had a building that came in 20 or 30% under the estimation.
I think it was a library, but yeah, the general trend right now seems to be that the overall bid is coming in under where the estimator pegged it, at least with AM Fogarty, who's the estimator we're using, and the one we use for the police station as well.
But we can play crystal ball all we want. We just wait 4 weeks and we're done. All right. You guys gonna get me out of here back to another meeting? Great. All right. Thank you all. And any other questions, please reach out. Thank you.
Thank you.